Hello and welcome. So now let's go to the topic of peace process in Mindanao. Who to you presented the most workable solution?
Right. Would you like me to start?
Yeah, you first.
Okay, sure. Uh, of course, many of them talked about the importance of both development and peace negotiations. But I felt that, and I have to give credit to Duterte, that he, amongst all of them, I think was uh, convincingly aware of the conditions in Mindanao. And this is understandable and this is to be expected. He knows the issues there and he has been working with the communities there and he has the record to back it up as well, his claims. He makes a strong statement that nothing will appease the Muslim community there if we do not give them the BBL. That's a very strong statement. The BBL, I would like to say, at least based on the studies that have been done there, is not straightforwardly accepted. It's not by everyone. It is also very controversial, not just amongst the Muslims, but also amongst the Lumad, for example, and other communities in Mindanao. So I think a more responsible statement could have been should have recognized at the very least the fragmentations that are present there. So it's not as cut and dried as saying that the BBL is a solution to all of these, because there are communities that resist it and are in fact afraid of the implications of this, or federalism for that matter. But I would say that amongst all of them, I felt that Duterte is most serious about this and has the sincerity, I would say, to really resolve this.
So do you think this will affect his numbers in Mindanao, considering the latest ABS-CBN survey, he got 61%?
Absolutely, absolutely. And Richard and I, right, you were mentioning this just now, that I think there's that, a while ago we were also talking about it, that the Mindanao vote for Duterte is an emotional vote, that someone could finally represent them in the national government. And I don't think any other candidate could compare to again, if I may use that word that I also used a while ago, authenticity that Duterte brings to the table.
No, without a question, I think Duterte won that round fair and square. I think a distant second is Rojas. Compared to other candidates were really moderate with statements.
Moderate statements,
really
Binay, for
moderate
example,
statements. Rojas, of course, Rojas and Duterte, I think, are the only two guys for the peace process. The BBL, of course, we can raise questions with BBL whether it was inclusive or not. Absolutely, there were problems with it. But I think Duterte has really shown he's a courageous leader by reminding the Filipino people about the empirically self-evident historical injustice against the Muslim people.
Yes.
I think that was a very brave move for him to do in a Catholic majority country, whereby after the Mamasapan tragedy, there's a lot of anti-Muslim sentiment. So I think he has to be credited for reminding the Filipino people about this. And I think that's what. And he showed not only a master understanding of the issue. He didn't have time to explain it, but you could see him when he was explaining it. He was explaining it with conviction, not as a policy analyst, not as a statesman, but as someone who has a very visceral familiarity with this issue. And I think on both the emotional aspect of resonance, in terms of his psychological understanding of the issue, and in terms of his convictions, he won this round fair and square. And that means that he may gain even more in Mindanao, because not all Muslims are backing him. A lot of Muslim communities supported actually Bina and other candidates. So probably a lot of Muslims will really appreciate that maybe for the first time in history they'll have a president who really understands their issue, even if that person is not a Muslim himself.
That's right. Richard, I'm not sure to what extent really people from outside Mindanao understand this emotionalism or this conviction among Mindanaoan, but I think it pays to understand, for example, that ARMM is the poorest region in the Philippines, 59% poverty incidence, and if I'm not mistaken, Camille, that the poverty incidence across the years has in fact increased. It has decreased nationally, but when, like now it is around 5.8% January 2016. Significant since 1990s, 34%, for example, right? But in Mindanao, it is really disappointing, utterly disappointing to see that it has been increasing. Now it's 59%. So you can imagine that many of these communities are looking for someone who could give attention to them. I hope that people from other regions could understand this instead of easily, quickly judging the people there, for example, as not understanding the complexity of national governance.
But how do we solve? It's like a cycle. It's a chicken or egg or something. Because what? Development or peace?
Good question, right?
Which comes first?
It should go hand in hand. I mean,
that's true.
The whole peace process was about providing at least a legal framework for creating necessary political stability to start this whole campaign of redeveloping the area, because this is the poorest area and yet it has the greatest minerals potential, trillions of dollars perhaps. It has the greatest agricultural potential. So I think the political stability is one thing that they have to get rid, and that was what the peace process was about. Notwithstanding the criticism that perhaps the BBL should have been tweaked here and there to make sure that it's consistent with the interest of people.
Of course, but I need to highlight also here that there is a religious dimension to this, right? There is this impression amongst the Christian majority that Muslims are a violent culture. That is in fact a mistake, right? To call Muslims as belonging to one culture. We know exactly. We know that there are Magindanaoans, there are Tausug, there are Maranaos, and there are several other Muslim communities there. And so the fragmentations are more complex than they seem to appear to us who do not subscribe to the same faith. And so to answer your question, is it chicken and egg? I agree with Richard, but we also want to recognize that when people are forced to articulate when people are forced when their backs are on the wall already, so to speak, they will look for a language to articulate their suffering. And normally religion provides that. And in this case, it is Islam.
Let's now go back to our debate.